Thank you for joining me. This is Kati Whitledge with a Beyond the Technique podcast. You guys, today is episode 700. If I got $1,000 for every time I posted an episode, wouldn't that be something? But you know what? This is a labor of love, and I love being with you. Today, I'm excited. We're talking about higher, better, stronger, faster. And I always want to bring you the most innovative people and also projects, softwares, systems, everything. And that's why I have Terry McKim here. And I'm excited for you to learn about his new platform called IntroVu. I think you're going to love it. Salon owners, leaders, I know you're going to love it. Let me remind you about Terry McKim. He is a multi founder, operator, and investor with a track record of building and scaling technology platforms in the service industry. As the creator of Tippy, I knew you would know that, right? As the creator of Tippy, he helped modernize tipping, driving over $1 billion in payouts to workers across the US. He now leads IntroVu, a hiring platform built to simplify and accelerate the interview process. Terry brings a practical operation first mindset to everything he builds, focusing on solutions that save time, reduce friction, and deliver measurable results. How many of you are hiring right now? Everybody just raised their hand. I can't see you, but I know you did. And so that's why we're talking about this awesome platform with Terry today. Without further ado, welcome back, Terry McKim.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. I feel like it's been a while, obviously, and seeing each other, since I don't even remember what it was, but we're nice enough to have David and I on for a podcast with Tippy, and as we were kind of getting things off there, and it's exciting for me to be back with something new.
This is so cool. And you've had a great track record. You are an investor, an entrepreneurial mindset, and you saw there be a gap. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, let's go to your background. Have you been behind the chair at any point in your career? Have you been a salon owner, spa owner? Tell us a bit about your journey in this industry.
Yeah, so I always say I grew up in the industry. My mom cut hair, and my sister actually cut hair too, and somehow found myself, involved in it. And I always joke, I'm sure people have probably heard this if they've met me, but we were just talking obviously, about our kids and sports, and I fell into wrestling and ended up going to get offered the wrestle Division One. And my mom was in my ear, and I remember her being like, "You're so creative, you should cut hair." And she had me convinced to do that. And in true story, I just was like, I can't call this coach who happened to be this Hall of Famer, bear looking dude. I can't call him and tell him, 3 months before school starts that I'm not coming because I'm going to cut hair. And I always regretted it because I felt like I was creative and ended up getting a graphic design degree. I was going to be a teacher. And in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I should have did that. It's so fun to be able to like transform people and get to know everybody and be personal every day and have these relationships. And found my way back into it actually through design. Ended up being a director of marketing for a chain of salons called Lords and Ladies Salons, which is in Pennsylvania. Terry Durr, who was the owner, happened to meet me for coffee one day, and I was like, "Hey, hire me. There's this thing, Facebook. You can advertise on it," and that shows you how long ago it was and how old I am. But there's social media is gonna be this thing, and I know you love billboards, but let me do this for you. And he gave me a chance, and while I was working for him, I happened to see a need for a better way to handle tips, and Tippy was it wasn't Tippy then, it was direct tips, but um, was born on the back of a piece of paper. Cliche as that is, I wish I had a piece of paper. It was a marketing plan, and I flipped it over and wrote this idea down. And because I heard how much he was paying in processing fees to accept tips, and then how much he was paying in payroll taxes. And I just felt like I was like, it has to be a better way, with PayPal. And I don't even think Venmo was a thing then, but um, just built something, tried to make it work, put in two salons that I didn't work in because I didn't want to lose my real job. And it worked. And I was like, all right, we can make this go big. And I was fortunate enough that David, who's my partner at Tippy, was a brother-in-law. I picked his brain at a Christmas gathering, and he gave me a chance, and we partnered up and made it real, and as you said, we went national, and to date, they've paid out over $1 billion in tips. And had a really good recent strategic partnership kick in. Um, but I just wanted to do something different. You know, my entrepreneurial background was like, all right, I got to do this. And I had this idea, ironically, um, pretty much the same time we launched Tippy, and I had to table it to focus on one thing, which is kind of hard, as I'm sure you imagine. When you have these ideas, you want to do it all. And I was like, no, what? I'm going to focus on Tippy, and I hope I get to do this some other day. And here we are, 6, 7 years later. I still see a need for it, which is kind of a good thing because you can have this idea and it can go away and not be needed a year later. And 7 years later, there's still a need for it. So I felt motivated to get this thing built and launch it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that was a mouthful. Sorry.
Well, you have this experience working with a salon. If you're doing Facebook ads, you may have created ads to help with their hiring process and not just client recruitment. So I'm curious, what gaps have you been seeing in salon and spas where you're like, gosh, we could help improve the interviewing process? What did you notice?
So it's funny. I'll go back to Lords and Ladies and that aha moment or the moment that I might have wrote that on back piece of paper too. Tippy, when we first started, we didn't have offices necessarily. I was just working out of whatever salon space I could find between our locations. One salon was an older salon, like a historic building. I'd be up in the attic working there. I remember hearing like bats up in the ceiling, so the one time. So that shows you work out there. But um, I was in our office for Lords and Ladies, and um, our recruiter for stylists, Ashley Rivera, who's also doing interviews, she'd be there first thing in the morning with her coffee. And I know the days we were all kind of in sync, and she'd be there all day long interviewing. My wife actually ran our medical spas. She was a buyer for a department store, had left that because we needed to grow a medical spa. So I convinced her to come work at Lords and Ladies. And then she'd be on the other side of the like office area interviewing for estheticians, massage therapists, and I would kind of hear them both doing their interviews, knowing that they literally blocked out their whole day and that they had to go to all 7 locations yet after that. And they would spend 6 hours of interviews, no shows, people don't show up. I've heard some crazy. I was asked to stop sitting in the area because I'd be talking under my breath, like, "Oh my gosh, like I cannot believe they someone came in their pajama pants, which is a true story. Or like wet hair or whatever it is, they weren't taking it serious, but out of courtesy, you obviously want to give them the time and you would spend 30, 40 minutes with them still. And I just felt like that was a waste of time. And I thought, could there be a better way to like streamline this introduction like process? You have your interview, you in person. I don't think you should get past that, especially in our industry. But is there a way to kind of get past this intro and not just a piece of paper or an online application? There's like kind of this middle part. Um, so I really like dove into this one-way interviewing, video interviewing system. And at the time, there was one out there that focused heavily on corporate. Um, and it was very big, seemed very chunky the way it works. And I wrote down how I would do it. Again, I have it on my iPhone, go work on Tippy, and I come back to it and realize 6, 7 years later, yeah, there's a couple of them out there, but they're all very corporate driven. Um, I had to do some more research. Spoke to a large barber chain, we'll say in our industry. It was just picking their brain on how they did it. And they're like, oh, well, our application tracking system referred one. We did that. They have AI. It was too long, too corporate. We had a lot of people not finish an application process and we had to get rid of it. So then, of course, that's when I'm like, all right, I can make something fun, simple, like I did a Tippy, and more efficient that is built for the beauty industry and really the service industry in general. Um, and I just felt like there's this, like, to me, hiring is like, and I'm sure you know too, we're always selling when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own product or your system. And I felt like with hiring, it is like selling if you think about it. In a sales process, you want to have a pipeline of all the potential leads or potential customers. In hiring, if you sometimes you forget that you need a pipeline in case somebody decides to leave, retire, maybe they want to switch locations or maybe they're moving. Um, and I feel like in our industry, we don't have that pipeline of potential candidates. It's always more of like a reaction instead of being proactive. And you don't always get the best candidates from that. So with one-way interviewing, essentially the best thing there is I could tell you how it works then, but the whole idea there is that essentially you take that pipeline, you fill it up with the best candidates so that you can hire, the best person for your, your salon, spa. We have a lot of restaurant industry, people reaching out, hotels. So again, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, so okay, let's explain it. So people were going to
Sure.
visualize what IntroVu is. It is a
Mhm.
one-way video submission, like an interview that somebody would submit to a salon or spa. And it can be this cool thing like, hey, apply now. And they pull up a little video. Tell us how it works. Like, what makes this special? Which I already love it because I feel like a video introduction, you have to have some courage to put yourself out there in a little video that's submitted. But if it's all this quick, easy process, this upcoming generation of professionals, they're going to be into it. They're going to be like, oh, well, this is cool. And nobody else does this. I think it's such a differentiator. So tell us a bit about how do I visualize the way this would work as I'm
Yeah,
listening?
absolutely. So, we'll use Lords and Ladies, for example. They create a link for an open applicate, an open position, whether it's the stylist or maybe they're looking for assistance. Um, She'll go on, she'll create the job posting. What is she looking for? Her normal questions, resume, a certification, upload. And then she can ask written questions where we can type those out. And then she can actually type out her prompted questions for a video. And I'm applying, I would click that link, I would answer my questions, and then it would say, hey, we're going to kick off your video, interview now. Here's some things to know. Get in a well-lit area. You can do it from your phone, laptop, iPad. There's no download needed. It's a really simple process. And as I'm interviewing, it'll just give me a countdown. It'll tell me what my question is, which could be what got you into the industry. And as I'm interviewing, that question pops up, and I can say I got into the industry because my mom cut hair, and I give my whole same thing I would do in person, but now and then maybe I mess up, and it gives me a chance to retake it, each one of them. And we recommend keeping it under 5 minutes because that's the whole point is not to make it too long because you want them to
Yep.
finish the process and not click off. And plus, the whole point there is now Ashley can come into the office instead of spending 6 hours. She can sit down, have her coffee, and go through these video submissions, and really get to know somebody from an introduction standpoint. There's also features built in there where they have multiple locations they're hiring for, so she'd be able to tag or send it to each salon manager, or maybe the spa manager at that location. They can make comments like, "Oh my God, Katie's great. Love her personality. She'd be great for our front desk. We should give her a call." And it would kick off the next process. There's a rating system in there. So each one, if there's more people involved, they know where everyone stands as far as the hiring potential. And again, it's just to make it simple. We've noticed with them, a really cool thing is that they're using it for cosmetology schools, and the students like it because it's not so intrusive. So they're scanning a QR code on their phone, it pops up, and then they go into a separate room, and these students are getting to handle a quick interview process where it's not in person, it's not too scary at first. But the good thing for lords and ladies is they're seeing who could be a potential hire and who might be graduating sometime soon, and they kind of get them first before the local competitors maybe do. So again, it's been like a really fun testing process. We're getting a lot of interest, but I just keep working on making this as simple as possible. We are introducing some AI features where if you have a bunch of applicants for something that's a heavy hire, um, you essentially can have AI implemented where it was like there's 10 applications that were submitted last night. If you only have 5 minutes, here are the top three based on your prompts that we think you should take a look at. So again, it gets pretty competitive, especially in like the franchise world. Their goal is typically to hire within 48 hours or at least make that decision who they're going to hire. So this really makes that a better process where they don't miss out on somebody who might go down the road and apply somewhere else and get hired.
So as a salon, I sign up to have IntroVu as part of my hiring process.
Mhm.
I imagine this will be either embedded or a widget or a link on our website. People
Mhm.
click on it to apply, it pops this up and guides them through their interview steps, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
and it's
cool.
you can be like, and we've made it so there's two different versions you would have. As like, some salons and spas might use Indeed or LinkedIn or maybe whatever they're used to using, and we don't want them to get away from doing that. So we
Yeah,
don't want to get redundant. So there's
you can
two
add it
options.
anywhere.
Yeah, so you can make it so you can use your standard share link of ours where you can put it on your website or your socials. People can click it and you can ask all the questions you want, like a normal application you would. And then you'll have your simple share link as well, where you could actually add that to your other job posting. Say, let's use Indeed, for example. We don't want you to have to ask for that information twice. So if I'm applying, I apply on Indeed. I don't want to click to go to IntroVu and have to refill out all that. Instead, you would use our link. So I fill out the Indeed application. I get an email saying, thanks for applying for lords and ladies, let's get your interview started now. If you have time, click here or when you have time. And I could just do a quick little video interview. And now you'll get the application and the link to their submission of the video as well. So it's kind of like a twofold where now I get to not only see something on paper, I get to actually meet them. And the one salon that's testing it actually was so excited because they're hiring for two front desk positions. And it's one of those things I feel like, especially, I mean, front desk, like that's like the central hub of a salon. Like someone's coming in, they set the tone. When they're leaving, you want to make sure they leave on a high, not just feeling good about their hair or their skin. But it's hard to tell a personality on a piece of paper. And I feel like some people might be missing out on that best hire. Maybe they don't have the qualifications like someone else. Maybe their resume is not super impressive, but they're so personal. They're so good at talking. They love people, and you're not going to get that from that piece of paper that they might submit or they submit online. But with IntroVu, you would turn immediately. First question, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this person's the best hire for our front desk. They're going to kill it. Clients are going to love him or her." So that's something I'm really excited about, and that's just one case study. They kind of turn in opportunity. As far as how typical hiring would go.
Yeah. There's so many use cases for this. I love
Yeah.
it. Can salon owners listening sign up for this right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in launch phase, which is like it's weird, but it's like my favorite phase because I get to like build something that I know is a need. I do have to control myself and not try to implement every single idea I have and really make sure there's case studies for it. But yeah, if you go to IntroVu, which is IntroVu.com, you can actually just fill out an inquiry and I'll reach out to you and you can test it out, try it out, and then build it from there. But again, we've made it so simple. That's kind of the goal. So that anyone can use it. It's easy for salon owners to implement immediately, whether it's one location or multi locations, whether you're hiring multiple times a month or just a couple times a year. I feel like it's a need for any size, business.
I love that. Well, for everybody listening, we have the link in our show notes for you to go directly to IntroVu's website. So that is there for you. What else do we need to know about IntroVu?
Um,
And like, let's say I love it. We've tested it, we try it, we want to use it. What's the investment look like?
so the pricing varies right now. That's kind of like the discovery phase right now. My goal is I think there's going to be needs where, like, again, we're getting interest from some larger restaurant chains, and I think there's like a need there because there's so much turnover. I think for the salon and spa space, it's going to be a matter of like keeping it more cost effective, where people are still intrigued and see a need for it. Because I think in our space, we're not always hiring, but we always want to make sure we're not missing out on the best people. And I feel like that's the two differences. And for me, figuring out the cost now, um, which sounds probably not the best thing, but it's like top priority for me. In the end, I'm gonna make it affordable. Right now, what I care about the most is the feedback. So getting people to use it, letting them have it for free right now, and then making sure I'm getting any necessary feedback I need to make it the best product there is. So yeah, it will be affordable. Like I said, it's just kind of at that part now where like we're kind of stiff arming a lot of the inquiries right now, just because we want to make sure we're building the best product there is before I wouldn't feel comfortable charging anybody until I know it's as perfect as I want it to be. If that makes sense.
Oh, perfectionist, Terry. That means we have to wait too long. Let's get some iteration, right? I
Yeah,
already
yeah, yeah.
like we won't talk shop for that, but
But yeah,
how have you seen
I'm
in your
excited.
test salons, like how have you seen this already improve or the speed to lead when you think about the pipeline of leads of candidates, how has this improved their process or already brought value to them?
Yeah, so I think if you think about the interview process, it's kind of tasking for the applicant and kind of the interviewee. We'll go back to, lords and ladies, for example. You might have somebody who's a local stylist that's maybe thinking about making a change. to come in and do an interview during the day probably isn't feasible. They probably would rather do it later in the day or over a weekend. And if you're, the recruiter or whoever's in charge of hiring, you might not have time for them, and it's kind of hard to make that match. You're going back and forth, trying to figure out that time. This is literally on everybody's time. So it's like the perfect scenario where if I'm applying there, but I'm busy or I have my other place I'm working, I can do it later. I can do it in my car, on my phone, during my lunch break. And if I'm the one making the decisions, now I can do that again while I'm having coffee in the morning and I don't miss out on that. We're seeing, like I said, a lot of the application process seems to be working really well because it's so easy that people feel like I can just quick do this and I don't have to like really invest a ton of time or figuring out the scheduling. Um, and if you think about it too, if you have a son that has a true manager recruiter that focuses on this, maybe it's not their full-time job, but maybe it is, and maybe it's a part-time job for them to recruit and hire, or sorry, interview and hire. This is saving like a tremendous amount of hours a week, which I mean, time's money. What else could you be doing with your time? Could you be making rounds to the schools? Could you be checking in the other locations? And that's really what we want to do. Can we make it so efficient that we're kind of a win-win, where the applicants feel like, what, I am going to apply because it is pretty non-intrusive and is it great for me as a hiring manager because it's going to save me 6, 7 hours a week, almost a full work day by doing it this way, as opposed to sitting in an office and having no shows. And I think that's the biggest one. When you commit that time to sit in an office and hire, and at the end of the day, you're like, what? There wasn't a good candidate. Yeah, I feel like that has to be so frustrating. It's to realize like I just wasted a whole work day and I have so much to get done yet. So now I got to work on Saturday or Sunday to get something done.
Mhm.
So that's where we're seeing the efficiency at.
That's awesome. Um, for owners listening who are like, okay, I'm bought in, I'm going to try it. Simply go to the website, you guys, get connected, get your demo. And what does that demo look like, Terry? Is it just a quick 30-minute conversation? And then when it comes to actually implementation, what kind of support do you offer them in this
Yeah,
process?
so it's probably less than 30 minutes. I mean, I obviously like to talk, so I always try to keep it under. But we've really made it simple. It's funny, even during the testing process, I would just send the link to the admin. And I'm like, if you don't mind, I'm not going to get on with you and walk you through this. I'm just going to send you the link. You set up your account, set up your organization, and set up your job posting. It's no offense. I would love to get on with you, but I wanted to see if you can figure it out. And everyone who's done it, which is multiple people, which is a good thing, has not reached out to me. They've done it. It's so easy to walk through themselves and kind of get the job posted and take their link and go share it where they want. And that's kind of what you want. That's kind of if I get it to that, then I've done my job of making it as simple as I want to make it. And that's kind of the goal, if I could just send it to them. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of the demo is good and I can get on and I can walk them through that. And as far as the support goes, like I said, it's always there. But in the end, my goal with Tippy was to make it really simple. Obviously, that was a little more complex because you're handling finances and moving money from A to Z. When someone tips, you're putting in their bank account. This, again, it's a matter of just creating like a platform, a dashboard that's really easy to follow. Do I think we'll add some more complicated products going down the road? Yeah, like my goal would be to integrate with Indeed, LinkedIn, and all the top job boards. And that's going to be probably like phase two, phase three, projects that we're going to handle. And again, just this for the major hiring, I think, franchises and chains that use those, that'll be a requirement. So
It's all very, very cool. And I can just see
thanks.
how this is going to benefit and excite a lot of salon owners. Because if we're going to be really honest, already know the first impression is made within seconds.
Yeah.
So why not see the person and get an idea of the way they look, sound, present themselves? Because you're going to know right away if they could be a good culture fit. We really do hire based on culture and character. We can train for the craft side or the technical side of any role. And so this to me, it is the time saver, but for that reason to actually see and hear from somebody, I think is really, really cool. And then it
Yeah.
becomes being strategic on the question that you asked that they have to answer in their interview. So
Yeah.
that's also, I love that part. So I appreciate that.
And it
Terry,
gives
if
them
you're
a
going to,
chance
yeah,
to, or it gives like you bring up a good point, which is it gives to me it gives the applicant a chance too, because you're not everyone can apply and everyone has, the ability to be considered for the position based on how they answer those questions. And we've added a feature too where if you're hiring, you could have an intro video to yourself, that before they even start their process, it could be, hi, thanks for applying to our salon or spa. Here's what we offer. We're really excited to meet you because they want to meet you as well. So as you kind of introduce yourself, it kind of leads into their introduction process, which we all know is literally probably the first 15, 20 minutes of any interview is that part. And that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish and kind of keep it personal. Some of these other ones floating out there that are very corporate driven, and a little too heavy on the AI process, lose that personality. And I feel like you miss out then on the good hires, especially in the beauty industry. I feel like you can't automate it and make it too robotic because I think you'll kind of lose out on the personal touch. And I think we're trying to keep as much of that as possible, even through just the automated communication and the whole process of it. And we're all busy. Everyone knows, sometimes like, hey, I want to interview here and maybe kids sports or whatever it is, and I have a quick 15 minutes to quick do this. I'm going to do it tonight, and hope I get that next part where I get to come in and meet them in person.
I'm going to really challenge you with this. I'm going to stretch
Okay.
you. So, as salon and spa owners are listening, one of the biggest frustrations is when you hire somebody, they don't have alignment in the mindset. It's very, very hard to change somebody's perspective. If you don't already have this type of mindset that we have here, this is going to be an uphill battle no matter what for you to be able to be in alignment with our standards and expectations and so on and so forth. What
Mhm.
would be one or two questions that you would recommend asking to identify that as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so I think, you have your general questions of, what got you into this industry, which I still think is actually as generic as that is. I think that's a really good one because you get people to really talk about,
The
I
heart of
think,
the matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, and it's funny because like I'm sure we all know them. Like, there's some really good hairstylists that I know personally that went to college, and I love their story because they went to college. We all know what, I mean, the debt's crazy now. And they go to college and realize that they like wanted to do something different. They wanted to be more personal and involved and be part of this trade. And I think they come in with such a high passion because they've seen kind of what everyone's being told to go do. Hey, you need to go to college and get this education. Blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, well, no, I really didn't. I could have went to a trade school specifically for this and loved my job immediately. I mean, I think that's for trade in general. So I think it's cheesy to say like, oh, white guy in this industry, but I think you can actually tell a lot when you ask somebody that. Um, because sometimes it sounds very generic and sometimes it's really passionate, like as far as like this is why I came to because I went this way and I decided to come come this way for the industry. So I would actually say that one. As far as the other ones go, um, I don't know. I think I've seen some really good questions popping up that they ask. So you are putting me on the spot. I think the one I saw that I liked was this is for as an esthetician because unfortunately I get to see some of the applications come in as I kind of dive in to make sure that it's all operating. But the one I like too is what was your favorite service to perform? And I thought that was interesting too, because you would think that some people might say something that's, maybe a higher price tag or whatever it is. And there's some that are actually really good answers as far as like ones that they really get to transform somebody and like make them feel good. So that was a neat one to hear too. But again, I think you can kind of twist it however you want. I think the ones that are probably the most generic are probably the most um
Effective.
revealing. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I think because you have somebody who like legit is passionate about what they're doing and they answer it so well.
I love that. And if I may, I will present a couple ideas for listeners today.
Yeah.
One is what are you really good at professionally? And it will be interesting to see if they gear it towards personality, if they gear it towards skill set and how they approach that. And then I'll say on the flip side, what do you feel like you're not great at professionally or not interested in doing?
Mhm.
And it's interesting what they come up with when you give them the option to say, or what you're not interested in doing. Another
Yeah,
very revealing question is like, tell me a recent time you kind of been disappointed. It could be anything. And what was that situation?
I love that
And
one.
they can just share, like, this was a disappointment, but you can kind of identify their mindset. Were they victorious? Were they a victim? And I think that's also revealing. So for listeners, there's my 2 cents on it. Terry, What would be some final words of just excitement or encouragement for our listeners today?
Like I said, the concept is something I thought of that really wasn't out there at the time. And although I see some other ones out there, and I think video interviewing like this has gotten so much more, people have gotten so much more comfortable coming out of COVID. Obviously, everyone's kind of forcing this, even if they weren't into doing video conference calls. I think it is important. I think our industry, I say our industry, the beauty industry is kind of behind sometimes in these processes, and
Mm,
I feel like that's my goal is to take something and to make it not just simple and effective, but make it so that it is built literally kind of like we did for Tippy. It's built for this industry. Yeah, I think based on what we're seeing that we're going to see other service industries take advantage of it, like hospitality and quick service restaurants. Even some event venues have reached out. But I think if it's built for this industry, there's a reason I want to do it because I think there could be better processes in what we do, where it's not a typical antiquated process where we can make it better. Um, and so that owners and managers can actually spend their time on growing their business. That's kind of the goal. Obviously, hiring is growing the business. Hopefully, you're hiring because it means you're growing. But on the other hand, like this shouldn't be super consuming. That process shouldn't be. There should be like a little bit more streamlined so you when you do spend your time in it you're looking at like 10 applicants. These are the three that I'm going to block my morning out for because I cannot wait to meet them. And I'm excited to hire one of these three today because I've already done my due
yeah,
diligence.
yeah,
Um, that's where you feel good about it. Not like, oh, I got to do this. Like you should feel good that you're growing and you get to hire people. And they're excited too, coming in knowing they just got past that intro part. And now they get to come in knowing they're like really considered. And you see a lot of these other industries yeah, corporate would not kind of do that now. And I feel like we can do it and we can do a lot better. It's kind of my goal. So
yeah. Well, you're making it happen, and I'm super excited that I saw it. And immediately it was like, yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes. Let's
yeah,
talk about it. Let's bring
yeah.
you on here and share this, even though it's like literally just launching right now. When you see a good thing, you want to share it. So I appreciate you being here to
Well, I
Terry,
appreciate
to
you.
share this. Yeah.
You were the first one to reach out. I posted it on LinkedIn what I was up to because people have been asking, like, tell me, tell me, tell me. And I didn't want to like jinx it. So I was like, I'll tell you in a little bit. And then when I posted that day, you were the very first inquiry that day. So I appreciate it.
I'm on it, brother. Well, I appreciate you. And I appreciate all of you listening here week after week at Beyond the Technique. If you really value this platform, please take a moment, leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening so that more people like you will discover Beyond the Technique, where we're here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Until next time, have an awesome day and stay strong.
Did you know over 60% of first-time clients do not return for a second visit? That is so painful, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's where Maya comes in. Maya is the ultimate marketing software for the beauty and wellness industry. We have a proprietary funnel utilizing special algorithms to help connect the right consumers with the right providers at your business. This means that Maya helps you get higher spending clients you love to work with who stay the long haul. If you want to increase your revenue, increase your client count, increase your average ticket, and increase your new client retention, then you need Maya. Go to joinmaya.com to set up your own personal virtual tour and see why over 500,000 consumers have trusted Maya and the businesses we work with to find their perfect beauty and wellness pro. We promise you will love Maya.